Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a very interesting session between some leading developers and our leading fashion retailers here on optimizing retail spaces and adapting to the changing consumer needs. So I think we've got a great group of large developers here, and Nexus, which owns today one of the largest mall portfolios. So I'm going to start by asking a question to you, Salim. So you've got malls in across regions, north, west, east, south. What's your experience been in terms of having different strategies across regions, or is it the same kind of structure that you follow dealing with tenants? What kind of lease structures do you have in place?
So yeah, I think every city, every mall is different. It's not one shoe fits all. I think as a mall, what we look at is our goal is to provide a place, a profitable, a vibrant space to our retailers where they can adapt, survive, and thrive. Yeah. Keeping that in mind, I think we plan our malls that we don't go for organic growth. We pick up the mall inorganically, and then we improve the offering in the mall. So I think it is always about where the mall is located, what is the size of the mall, what are the strengths of the mall, where do we lie in terms of catchment, and our brand mix is then revised accordingly. There is a lot of change that I see in the way we are working on our malls. We are looking at how we can rationalize the anchor spaces, how we can add more of F&B, how we can make our malls, not just malls, but an urban consumption center. And that is how we have now started looking at our retail mix, our store sizes, our anchor to vanilla to F&B to luxury or bridge to luxury mix. And that is how we usually look at things now and going forward.
Understood. So every market you're saying will have a different sort of a category mix, or the spending power may vary, and you may have a different positioning accordingly.
Absolutely. For example, Select City in Delhi
Yes.
is very low on anchor.
Right.
On the other hand, a center like Elante
Right.
is very heavy
Sure.
anchor heavy. So yeah, I think with Select, which is a city center mall, there's a lot of focus on fashion,
Right.
entertainment, F&B. But a
Right.
larger center, there is a more focus on your experiential events or experiential offering.
Right.
At Elante, we have two FECs. We have
Right.
20 anchors.
Right.
We have more than 50 options of F&B because
Right.
that's the largest center which is serving to the whole of state.
Right.
So it's always different. Every center is planned in a different manner.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Stephen, you want to also add to the similar question of what kind of strategies do you normally adopt when it's spread across different regions in terms of the center positioning, the kind of consumer behavior that you witness? Do you adapt the center accordingly?
Um, I think Salim sort of captured it very well. I think he
Yeah.
said most of what he said.
Right.
But I just probably reiterate the fact that, yeah, no two catchments are the same.
Right.
So even within a city, different quadrants of the city behave, spend, want different things from their shopping centers.
Right.
So regardless of where you're placing your mall in whichever part of the country, you have to do your homework. You have to understand what the requirement is, what the local palette is, what
Right.
kind of, how do people want to shop, how do they shop, what do they spend money on, the categories they spend money on.
Right.
And I think that's basic, it's fundamental. If a developer doesn't do that, and if he thinks there's one formula where you can just copy paste across the country, you're just setting
Right.
yourself up for failure.
Which
So
was
that's-
earlier the case.
Yeah, so that's
Right.
just fundamental. I mean,
Right.
nobody can ignore that.
Absolutely. Right. I'm going to move on to the retailers. Sumit, you've been instrumental in taking bestseller from the beginning to now to another height here. How has your experience been from? And I've seen you launching large stores, 10,000, 15,000 square feet flagship stores, Linking Road, Khan Market, of course, and to now opening more EBOs, which is like 1,500 square feet average. So how has that experience been for you?
So, I mean, we've been opening stores of all sizes, shapes and sizes, I should say that, across the country. And it's not restricted to only large stores, or now the strategy has changed to smaller stores. I think when we entered India, we were very clear that we will follow global guidelines in terms of sizes. And when we used to go to our mall partners, uh, we used to get a lot of pushback as to why don't you do smaller stores, and some of them are sitting in this panel as well. But uh, but I mean, it's not about that. Um, what a mall thinks is the right size for a brand. It's about what we think our offering is. Opening a smaller store might make sense sometime. Like for example, Khan Market was one example. But our experience has been very different. Whenever we open uh, smaller stores, we generally end up shutting them in a few years, because I mean you can't give the complete offering to the consumer.
True.
You cannot um, display your entire merchandise which the brand has, and then the consumer says that I might as well go to a bigger store where I'll get everything under one roof. So I mean, not that we are not averse to opening smaller stores, but our small is generally big for mall partners.
Right.
And but yes, we are open to opening a flagship stores. Open to opening flagship
You want
stores
to
as
leave
well.
that little bit of scope of talking to the developers for future
Always. I mean,
stores, right?
all we want is. I mean, the only thing I want is everything.
Right.
That's the only punchline, also, by the way.
Great. Vivek, you want to add to, being human strategy, what is your strategy of opening stores? When it comes to online and offline, what is the kind of ratio that you're following as far as your expansion to, let's say, the main cities and even tier two cities today?
So we got into this, the brand got into the retail expansion at a point in time when not so much real estate was available. So while a lot of developers said that we want you in the mall, but you'll have to wait. So that's been one starting caveat that we started the expansion with. However, having said that, we've realized two things. One is if there is a town where we see that there's a potential, and the potential gets kind of captured through the presence of the brand, through other channels, through what we sell digitally. And if there is nothing which is available in a mall, we take the route of the high street. That's one. So that at least till such time I get the right space in a mall, I am not losing an opportunity in the market, and I'm not staying sort of silent in a market. So that's one. The second thing is in some places, sometimes numbers don't make sense initially, you do take the calls of putting the brand out there, because the stores to us is not just a method of doing business, like Suneet said, that the fact is that a bigger store works for him because he has got a merchandise line across his brands, which warrants a certain kind of space, because consumers believe in brands and then they buy. They don't I'm still a believer of that fact that consumers will not just buy products. They would buy a product from a particular brand. They'll buy something from Jack and Jones, which they may not buy from, say, NLP denim, right? So while the price points could be very similar, the acceptance of merchandise is very, very different from a consumer's point of view. So to be able to adapt to that, I think we've got a lot of support, and we continue to seek a lot of support from the developers in expanding the brand to the rightful scale that the brand deserves. The other aspect which is very, very interesting for us is, since we were sort of a little late on the expansion side, the knowledge from digital consumption really helped us. So we could focus a little better in markets where we knew that there is latent strength that exists, where we knew that we get in and the chances of success is going to be far, far higher. Having said that, we've also taken up markets which has been virgin for us. Like in last about a year's time, we have been opening up south. We are very, very clear that, say, states like AP and Telangana, which is very, very strong casual market for our category. So if I don't get a mall space, I would go and open a high street. And we've been aggressive in expansion there. While if I were to look at another market like East, Where I know that I can wait, I would. So there's a little bit of cautious expansion in some places. Some places I may look a little reckless or too fast, but they have given good dividends so far.
Right. Rohit, I'm going to come to you now. Um, First, we all heard in the news the first mall to go online in a hyperlocal format. So, how has that experience been? And would like to, it's interesting to understand if retailers sort of came ahead and is the entire mall online, or are retailers still sort of apprehensive coming on that platform?
Yeah, no, I think we are the first one in the industry to launch this Inorbit.online.com. The way we're looking at it, it's not a business model, it's like a service model. And fundamentally, what we're trying to do is whatever sales our partners, the brand partners do it from the store. They have 12 months, right? We're targeting that can we add one more month of sales in their business. That's the larger arcing principle why we have launched this concept. The features obviously are phenomenal. The product gets delivered in about 60 minutes within 10-kilometer radius of the center. And the products, whichever is available from the store. So it does 2-3 things. Obviously, all of them are available on Myntra, Jio, and other marketplaces. With this, they gives them one more opportunity to showcase their store merchandise to sell to the consumer who's in need, right? And that's a very latent or a very sliced need which is available. And third, also what it does is it gives the brands who are always struggling for delivery through warehouse. It also doubles up the stores as an in-store, in-city warehouse for each one of them. So their merchandising cost, their inventory cost is also taken care of. So there are, if you look at it at a micro level, there are a lot of benefits if it's done well, if it's executed well. So yeah, so these are the larger fundamental things we've been working on. I think it just started off and it's doing well. And yeah.
Absolutely. I think we're all getting used to the 8 to 10 minute delivery window, so I'm sure we'll get there soon when it comes to malls as well.
Yeah.
Right. Salim, I'm going to come to you now. I'd like to understand if you've come up with any performance-based lease models, which are different from the earlier models that we followed. Of course, the typical model like an MG revenue share, but are there any new performance-based leasing models that you've come up to support, let's say, D2C brands and our existing tenants, given the kind of business projections they have?
So the business models have always been there, MG or F share, whichever is higher, and if you don't perform, there's a trading performance clause. I remember a couple of deals where we've signed, where we've given a larger store to a brand with a condition that if you don't perform XTD over the next 2 quarters or 3 quarters, we take back some space back. Yeah, that is something that we've done in the past. And for the D2C brands, I think D2C is still a very fresh animal that we are looking at in the malls. But they come with a promising future because with a new brand, they're not new because they've already performed online and you know how many people they are serving today. Yeah, I know a brand which claims to be selling 15, 20 shirts per minute from the online. So when you talk to them, there is always a comfort of knowing that they're going to push their customers from online to offline, and that's a safer bet when you look at those brands. Yeah, having said that, I think for now, instead of looking at the conditions of on what we want to sign, bring them, besides what we're doing normally with the existing retailers, I think the focus should be on how we increase our trading density from brands like these and maybe have a long-term 2 years or 3 years kind of a deal where the brand is given a platform to perform. And instead of locking in for 5 years or 9 years, we try and give them space for 3 years, see what's going to happen because there's a lot of uncertainty there also. Brands are trying to do a lot of new stuff, but you also want to make sure that this is not a fad. Yeah, it's there for a longer time. And if it's not relevant for a longer time, then we look at a smaller period of lease, and when the performance is not up to the mark, you could replace them as and when you get an opportunity.
Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting you touched on one of these clauses. Lock-in is something that I think time and again we face, that a lot of tenants have now
Yeah.
started saying that we're not going to give any lock-in, we're investing in the store, we're here to stay for long, but we will not give
This is a
longer.
problem.
Yeah,
This is a good problem at some centers. I mean, depending on the center. Sometimes a good center,
Yeah.
people don't want to move out. They want
Right.
a larger lock-in period.
Yes.
With some malls, they want to keep themselves safe. So it's a balanced risk that you take. But I honestly think the tenure of the agreements could come down
Right.
from the typical 9 years or 5 years, 7 years to
Right.
a more acceptable 3, 4, 5 years kind of thing.
Right.
Because that then gives you the flexibility to the mall, because end of the day, mall is nothing but a mix of brands. Yeah. Mall, like cinemas, are selling somebody else's product. Mall, my first customer in the mall is retailers. I mean, at no point in time, I'm directly selling anything to the customer.
Right.
So if my offering is weak, right, my hero is my brand. If my hero is not strong,
Right.
I need to replace it with a better offering. Otherwise, we become not so great mall, and then we become a history. So I think
Right.
every good mall that is performing today is because they've churned wisely. Yeah, whether they have renovated, whether they have relocated, whether they have resized or replaced.
Right.
Yeah, but I think all these successful malls run on this philosophy.
Right. I think Stephen, for you, another thing that I think we're all trying to do as developers is having clauses of refurbishment, right? Which were kind of emphasizes for every brand to do after a certain period. Stephen can possibly, throw some light on that, and I'd like to hear from the tenants as well, from fashion retailers as well. What do they think about it?
If I had to answer that, I think we've come a long way.
Yeah.
I think there was a time in the country where you had to go back to a brand and say, you know what, 6 years the store is looking a little faded. You've got
Right.
to refurbish it. I think brands right now are, in terms of how their stores look and feel, I think they've understood the importance of it more than us.
Right.
So we don't need to really go back to any retailer anymore and say it's been. I mean, brands are sometimes doing it. Like for example, at our forum South Bangalore, Tommy Hilfiger opened, and within 6 months, not even within 6 months, within 3 months, I think from opening, they had a directive to upgrade the look and feel of their store. So they shut the store down for another 2 weeks, and they upgraded the entire look and feel. So I think we've come to a place and stage in the industry where everybody understands the importance of how the store looks, how it feels, because that's what attracts the customer.
Right.
And that's what the entire experience depends on.
Right.
I just want to also flash back to the previous discussion with Salim in terms of online integration. I think that's also something we've seen which has evolved massively. I think every brand, including Sumit and Being Human, everybody is now integrating online sales, and it's happening at a very seamless level.
Right.
We know it, our agreements also provide for it. So whatever sale is happening online, regardless of where it is, if it's being fulfilled from our store, it's part of the store revenue. And we get statements. So the whole process is seamlessly integrated. And even more than that is we're getting a phenomenal amount of insight from the brands themselves.
Right.
Like I can talk to Sumit, and Sumit can tell me in Forum Kochi, online sales contributes to so much this month. So we're getting data which is super refined and super accurate. So I think the whole process, I think we've continuously been drawing the lines between brick and mortar and online. But I think the world we're heading into is seamless. And you're only going to see more of that. And as developers, it's our duty to also seamlessly integrate the entire process. So the
Absolutely.
customer benefits at the end of it.
Absolutely. Right. So, coming on to you, Rohit, what is your opinion on creating pop-ups, for brands that are entering you? Because you may not be confident giving a larger store or straight away a brand entering India, let's say, to showcase their production. So are you creating such adaptable spaces where pop-ups and, starting off brands get to enter some of your malls?
So no, pop-ups is actually it's a win-win for both the brand who's wanting to experiment and understand that micro market or that asset or that mall, and vice versa also for a developer to understand whether that brand will do well or how will it perform. So it's definitely a go ahead. I think that culture or the concept is picking up in the country now. We've been seeing this forever in overseas, right? Market is a pop-up. So there are two types of pop-up. One, a brand who's launching new in a new market, or there are brands who only come up with like once in 3 years and do only pop-up. So you have humongous amount of queues for them, right? Like a Pokemon will come up with a pop-up, or Dior Cafe will open up for a pop-up for 3 months in an exclusive mall, right? So that's a very different stuff. Coming back to India, here, we face challenges in terms of the sizes of our asset, right? And as we always say, it's real estate, so we can't really swing in and out the sizes. So we have to make good what space we have. But thinking differently, we are definitely open to explore new brands, whether they are D2C brands or the brands who are coming in new in that concept, and really giving them spaces. I think we had a great discussion yesterday. So all the developers are really, really going ahead and doing that and offering spaces to new brands like Snitch, Bonkers, a lot of them, right?
Yeah,
And
quite a few.
if you look in past, I think there was a comment made, Lenskart, Nykaa, which are like billion-dollar companies now,
Right.
were also a startup or a D2C when they started off, right? So, yeah, it's ever evolving.
Right.
Thanks.
Great. So, Sumit, coming back to you, looking at how your consumer behavior is, what are the kind of new initiatives or maybe a new category that you may have launched catering to the Gen Z, or are there any plans of launching, some new lines in your brand?
So we haven't added really new lines, but we have launched two kidswear brands. Jack and Jones Jr. Jack and Jones Jr. is actually now 4 years old. We just started during COVID. Actually, our brand teams sitting at home conceptualized and started work on Jack and Jones Jr. So that was one. It's but I will still say that it's still very early days for the brand. While it's doing very well, we're growing very fast from a visibility perspective, as well as obviously sales. We launched Vermoda Girl about a year and a half back, and we've seen a huge traction with that brand. So yeah, kids category is a very interesting category to be in. Very different from our mainline brands, but very interesting, and there is a big opportunity which lies in the kidswear category in segment. I have my mall friends here. I mean, the biggest challenge which we face is that kids don't get preference in malls. The kids category doesn't get preference in malls. I mean, obviously there are reasons, because while we cater to a younger audience, a smaller audience, business was obviously also smaller than the mainline brands. So it requires an overall reworking of strategy from the mall's perspective also, because obviously their throughputs through that category will be lesser than the mainline brands. So yeah, there's a lot of discussions and talks with everybody going around, and I'm hopeful that one day they will also become our mainline brands in the next few years. So that's interesting. That's something very interesting which is happening at our end.
I think our overall development and the way the malls are leased and planned, that's also ever evolving, right? I mean, while in the earlier days it was pretty sort of, plug and play. Now we are, experimenting with certain categories, coming on ground floor instead of higher floors. Home, has become more impulse, which it was earlier planned. So it's an ever-changing, ever-evolving sort of practice that we're in now. So any last...
You think of a concept, it's available online. I mean, somebody is doing something about that. I mean, you just have to think about it.
Think about
you
it.
just search,
Right.
go to Google or go to Amazon.
Right.
You just thought about that product or that
It's there.
category, and it's available. So somebody is doing a good job somewhere else.
Absolutely. So I think another very important point that we all sort of converse about is data interpretation. So, customer data from the point of view of malls and tenants sharing that data is something that we're, still trying to achieve. So how has that experience been for you all? I mean, something like a Select City, have you been able to maximize? Yeah.
Honestly, I wish we could have some understanding of the retailer's data. Unfortunately, we have no access to the retailer's data. So if I do a marketing spend of about, say, 1 crore in mall, I really don't know which catchment I have directly hit, because my shop and bin data or my vehicle data does not give me an exact number on what impact has it had on the catchment, whether I was able to drive people from the catchment I was intending to. So I really wish going forward if we could get some access into or some visibility of the retailers' data because they have them through mobile numbers and through loyalty programs. I think we'll be able to do a very effective, very cost-oriented, we will be able to put our monies in the right place. Today we are spending them all over, expecting them to come from Instagram also, to come from print ads also, to come from decor also, come from engagement also and concerts also. But we honestly don't know. We know that the mall has grown from X to X plus 20% this weekend or after this ad. So I think that access is something which is very important. And in omnichannel, I'm going to take that from here.
Yeah.
Omnichannel, every mall wants to, today, I think, in the next 5 years, every mall will have their xyzonline.com. Yeah. The challenge is, when we talk to the CTOs or the brand heads of the brand, they're more focused on pushing their own online portal. Because CTOs also has a target of taking it from 20% to 25%, 30%.
Right.
So they're keeping us distended. But I think what brands also will need to understand is the mall is trying to create a marketplace. You have a offline brick and mortar marketplace in shape of a mall. And if mall can give you more revenues, like you said, we can add one more month, 12 plus 1 month or X plus 2%, 3% to your top line, and without any additional resource, right? You're not paying me additional rent, you're not paying me additional storage space. You already have the manpower in the store. So if you're looking at warehouse or you're looking at another store catering to it, why not support the mall and get 100% of the brands operational on the omnichannel? Another benefit that I see is I may not have a X brand. Let's say I may not have a Jack and Jones at certain mall, but when you become a part of Nexus omnichannel, I may be able to cater through one mall where I have Meromura to a catchment which does not have a Meromura in my mall. So I think there is some access, some handshakes that is required between the mall and the brands.
Salim, I think the handshake has to, or the buy-in has to come from the business side, not from the CTO side. So you need to speak to the right people.
I know we have been talking to. I think our team is engaging. Sanjeev has been talking to brands.
Right.
Some brands have come on board, and I think if we are able to bring 100% of the brands on board, it'll be a better platform.
Also on the data part, while we haven't had a conclusive arrangement with any mall partner on data sharing, both ways. I mean, neither you share data with us or we share data with you in terms of customer data. I mean, it's not going to get easier with the privacy laws becoming stricter and stricter. I would not be in a position to share data, and neither would you be in a position to share data going forward. I mean, our own data remains with us. So yeah, with the privacy laws getting stricter, it won't be easier. Yeah,
I'm not
but
saying
I'm sure we'll be able
we
to.
needed micro data, but something of how the performance has been. What has the catchment grown from where?
Salim, I was just going to add that if our mall marketing is not working, there's one clear-cut parameter. You'll be hearing from Sumit the next. I think that's a sure shot. No, but on a lighter note. But also agreed in terms of data collection. I think we've also gotten a lot better. For example, our malls have sensors. So every car that drives in, we pick up basis the registration number. We can tell you from which part of the city that car is coming. Like we're doing it very aggressively at Forum South Bangalore. So if we know that 20% of this, 25% of the total people who drive into our mall comes from a particular quadrant of the city. Right. So I think it's gotten better, of course, with the way technology is advancing and footfall counters and heat tracking and heat maps, of course. I think we'll probably have a lot more access to analysis-driven data as it evolves.
Right.
So you were right on that point. So see, really the point is not about me having the list of customers of the mall or the mall having the list of customers. The brand customer list is always going to be a subset of the people who are coming inside the mall, right? So all of this data, and Sumit rightly said, after a point, there will be restrictions on the kind of work a brand can do on their own CRM basis reading data of the consumers, right? I mean, in today's date, in my store, my tech can identify how many men and women. I don't know how long I can be running with that. There will be a day that, the government is going to pass the data privacy law, which is practically on the table.
Just around the corner, actually.
Yeah, and we'll not be able to do any of that. See, the point is in understanding, like you said, what is my mall's catchment? Point is in understanding in which space a certain set of people, a certain demographic, certain psychographic of people are moving around in the mall, if the mall is large enough, and then try and see if that helps rezoning, if that helps driving, if that helps somebody market better. The other point that you mentioned, which is about Omni, I think if you ask me frankly, that's a much, much larger play that's available. I was looking at some data yesterday. At the end of 2024, the e-commerce revenue in India is going to be $58 billion. That's, pardon my French, but that's a
Yeah.
ton of money, right? On the other side, when you see 65% of physical consumption in lifestyle categories, I'm saying lifestyle categories, not tech, is researched online. Now, if these two things are true, one is real data, which is Statista, so I'm sure there's a certain amount of credibility to that. If that is true, here's a question to all the developers. We are talking about omnichannel. We briefly spoke about the fact that there are malls globally who do flexible spaces, which is a certain kind of space built. You get in as a brand, you get in as a designer, you get in as a D2C player, come in, get out, and from there a lot of future long-term tenants come out for the malls, right? So that's one. Is there a possibility that you may be trading a brand in, say, 5 of your centers, and another 5 centers you're not trading it physically with a store? Is there possibility of creating dark stores for those brands and just create a section space, a very cool experiential space within the atrium of the mall, and tell the consumers that, look, you know what, these guys, you can't physically browse, but by the time you're getting out of the parking, this will be in your car. An experience like that is going to elevate the consumer's affinity with the mall. And trust me, there will be a point. And about 20 years back, in a big college, in a classroom, there was a question asked that whether it's going to be a mobile company or whether it's going to be a computer company. Reality is known to us today. This same question in a certain form is coming to us again, right? While we acknowledge it or not, but that's there. So if you ask me frankly, a disruption for sure is needed.
And also, while we all talk about omni-channel, online, offline, I think we should stick to what we are best at. While malls can go online and brands can go online on their own and various multiple sources, but we should not forget our core. Our pure intention should be, from a developer's perspective, is that how we bring traffic to our malls and our brand partner stores each day. What innovations do we do in the mall, not online, so that traffic comes to the malls and your brand partner stores progress. In terms of temp stores, which Nandini and Vivek touched upon. Today, temp stores we find in Indian malls only when a tenant has vacated and that the space is empty. Globally, there are permanent temp stores, empty spaces in malls, which are given on rotation to different brands. Either they are new brands or existing brands in the country who are experimenting with a new product line or whatever. There is a churn in that temp store every 3 to 6 months. So that kind of an innovation you need to build in your business model so that newer brands can come out of those temp stores in terms of permanent leases. So that's something which you need to, kind of think upon, develop on, and make it a part of your business model.
Sumit, just to add to that,
I think Forum South Bangalore has done that very beautifully in terms of temp store, and their temp store is on a permanent lease.
True, with the light
and the
store,
brands keep changing every 3 months, 6 months, or whatever.
and that's excellent because in a year you get 3 or 4 different formats from that store. So you also keep the variety going. It's more vibrant.
So clearly, I think partnership between tenants and developers has become a necessity now, and we should keep collaborating, understanding, what each other's expectations are, and evolve accordingly. So thank you, everyone. It was a very insightful session, and thanks again.
Thank you.